Hello YouTube, it's Shadow Hero 90, welcoming you to the 5th season of Sexism in Movies and TV. Now, there are many reasons as to why I do this review show. One of which is the portrayal of men in the media is downright horrific. It's an insult. It's why most kids think their dads are idiots. But when it comes to women, they get the get out of horrible portrayal free card. And although I do review a lot of shows and movies that are aimed at a mature adult audience, most of what I review is aimed at a young audience. And yes, I kind of do blame shows like Adventure Time and Loud House and the bulk of what usually appears on this show as being the reason that teenage boys have such low self-esteem. Which is actually kind of true when you think about it from a psychological perspective. When every single portrayal, well, almost every single portrayal of men and boys on TV and in movies is negative, of course these teenage boys, when they first hit puberty, are going to have horrible self-esteem. So, in that regard, I know that I have a noble cause when I rip apart these televised pieces of shit. So anyways, on with the review.
Rule 63. The concept of taking a franchise and giving all the characters a gender swap. Do I hate this? No, I do not. Can it be done well? Yes, if all the characters are actually in character. The episode of Teen Titans Go, Beast Girl, is a living testament to both of the statements that I just made. But a good question is, can Adventure Time take this concept and make it work? The answer is no, they can't. If they take this concept, it will destroy itself. Fiona and Cake is a really good example of how not to gender swap your characters. Okay, so Fiona and Cake are helping Prince Gumball set up a party. He tells them they're invited, and Fiona is a little bit confused. Okay, the Ice Queen tries to kidnap Prince Gumball. Okay, so Fiona goes on a date with Gumball. Still confused whether or not she wants to date him or not. Fiona then goes to the party where Prince Gumball takes her up to his bedroom. Nope, but as a plot twist, it was actually the Ice Queen in disguise in an attempt to get rid of Fionna. Fionna beats the Ice Queen, but then Cake sees Prince Gumball and attacks him over an obvious misunderstanding. Okay, and so far so good, but this is the part where, Adventure Time with Fionna and Cake instantly shot itself in the foot. Fionna acted like she really wanted to date Prince Gumball. Dare I say, she might have actually been in love with him, and was going to beat the Ice Queen half to death for pulling the stunt. The minute Prince Gumball actually wants to date her, she instantly rejects him. Okay, in Adventure Time, Finn was obsessed with Princess Bubblegum up until Season 3, up until Season 3. Hell, just this year, to make both Adventure Time and regular show relevant in 2020, some fan post the question, who's a bigger simp, Mordecai or Finn? So anyways, this is massive hypocrisy with this episode, 'cause Finn obsessed over Bubblegum for 3 seasons until Jake actually brought Flame Princess into the picture. Fionna, on the other hand, is able to get over Prince Gumball without Cake's help in less than a second, and then she says she doesn't want a boyfriend. I mean, it would make sense if they did one final Fionna and Cake episode that revealed her to be a lesbian. And I say that because in the actual continuity, they made Bubblegum and Marceline a lesbian couple, which was the only way to save their characters, because of how horrible they treated Finn for almost 10 seasons. Then Fionna instantly fawns over the Ice King, as does Cake, and boom, it's revealed that this was all just a work of fiction that the Ice King wrote. Okay, next episode, straight out of Season 5, Bad Little Boy, the introduction of Marshall Lee. It starts out with another fanfic being read by the Ice King to a bunch of princesses that he kidnapped. Marceline sets them free using her invisibility powers, and the Ice King freaks out thinking it's God, begging forgiveness for not believing that he's real. Believe me when I say, as an atheist, I take great offense to this scene. This episode is offensive in more ways than one. So anyways, Marceline makes herself visible, sits down, and tells her Fionna and Cake story. We start off with Prince Gumball having baked a bunch of pastries for Fionna, and then they end up climbing on top of the wet roof because something swiped them, and that thing was Marshall Lee. He asks Fionna to go to a party with him which she does. They perform a song and dance at the party. There is a bit of playful roughhousing. Marshall Lee apparently puts up this "I'm a villain" routine, which we don't really know if he's being honest, since there were only 4 Fiona and Cake episodes made, to the best of my knowledge. So anyways, Marshall Lee dances with Cake and makes it look like he's about to feed on her, which tempts Fiona to leave, but she stays. They sing a bit more. Marshall Lee eventually kidnaps Cake, summons a bunch of skeletons, which I guess is supposed to be a callback to when Marceline did that in the episode Hunchman, which was the worst episode of Adventure Time. Fiona fights off the skeletons, fights Marshall Lee, injures him, the sun comes. Marshall Lee is impaled, but used one of those things that Prince Gumball baked to save himself. Fiona punches him, starts laughing, and beats him up. Then we cut back to reality, where the Ice King doesn't like what he hears and throws all the princesses out along with Marceline. This episode tries to be a gender-swapped version of Marceline's first 2 appearances. And believe me when I say, they really fucked up. I mean, they try to draw allusions to the episode Hunch, and they probably could have done a much better job in that department. I mean, they could have essentially done something similar to The Bride of Dracula and have Marshall Lee prank Fiona and Cake by tricking Fiona into going through a bogus wedding with Marshall Lee that would be fake, and terrify Cake by making her think that Marshall Lee hypnotized Fiona into getting married to him only so he can treat her like crap. But that episode ended with Finn saving Marceline's life, and she doesn't even try to make it up to him. She just acts like an arrogant. This episode ends with Fiona getting pissed off and beating Marshall Lee up. And this is where Adventure Time with Fiona and Cake shot itself in the goddamn foot. I mean, yeah, in all fairness, if you're gonna let Marceline off the hook and still be an arrogant bitch, you gotta do the same thing with Marshall Lee in the gender-swapped version. The idea is that Marceline doesn't deserve to be punished because she's a girl, and Marshall Lee deserves to be punished because he's a boy. I mean, this kind of shows that at the time, Cartoon Network and or Penn Ward really do not like, they have a severe hatred of men. It's a complete double standard, saying it's okay when the girl version does it, but not when the boy version does it. I mean, for shit's sake, Ball Masters actually got this right, unlike Adventure Time, because when they tried to do a Bride of Dracula type story, they actually had the character who's a stand-in for Dracula, essentially have Gaz, who he really did hypnotize, clean his lair in a maid uniform, which is actually a form of payoff when you think about it. Definitely puts Ballmasters above Adventure Time, and believe me when I say that even the comic books of Adventure Time that feature Fiona and Cake are sexist. They did one about... it's a stereotypical cliched plot. Fiona tries to get into a hero convention by pretending to be a boy. It's a damn Clubhouse plot. Those things are so freaking cliched and sexist. And if you want to argue that they're not, how come they never did an episode of the show where, say, the princesses are having a roller derby competition. Finn and Jake want in. They tell them to scram because they're not princesses, or girls for that matter. And that would be the conflict of the episode. And if someone ever ends up, creating a work of fiction that becomes a massive success, that is truly misogynistic, it is gonna be in response to things like Adventure Time. Let me just state that Joker, directed by Todd Phillips, who directed the Hangover trilogy, did Joker in reaction to all the crazy liberals and social justice warriors that attacked his previous work. Okay, so in closing, this reeks of a complete double standard. Finn is essentially nothing more than a lovesick puppy who would do anything for Bubblegum's attention or affection up until season 3. Fiona, on the other hand, is the complete opposite. She doesn't even want a boyfriend, and she actually gets to have her own feminist empowerment speech about it in her first appearance. Okay, compared to Marceline, Marshall Lee is definitely the lesser of two evils. He really doesn't do anything evil. He doesn't even trick Fiona into slavery like Marceline did with Finn. Marshall Lee, essentially, the worst thing he did throughout the show's run was scare Fiona. He didn't do anything beyond that. Marceline tricked Finn into slavery, and that episode ends with her still being an arrogant cunt. Where, on the other hand, Marshall Lee pranks Fiona to try and find out whether or not she likes him by making it look like he got hurt, and in response, she kicks his ass. There's definitely a double standard here, and it's not fair, and it's putting horrific ideas into the minds of kids everywhere. Adventure Time is the kind of show that pollutes the minds of children by throwing identity politics in it. And the truth is, I could make a better version of Adventure Time using the Fiona and Cake characters. I mean, I just have to rewrite it a little bit, make Marshall Lee the hero, Lumpy Space Prince would be his sidekick, Fiona would be the love interest, and Prince Gumball would be the rival character. Oh, and the Ice Queen would be the Aunt May style mother figure. But since I can't, it's good that Adventure Time is dead and rotting in hell. So that's all I have to say on the matter. Review over.